subsection I believe, which talks about there being this privilege communication that can only be waived by the defendant in this case, or the person who has communicated with them. And so she has asked us to inform the court of that and have the court consider and or order her to comply and testify to her subpoena. I have not brought this up with Mr. Bradsher, don't know what his position on that is. I have a couple of thoughts about why it would be allowable in this circumstance without his express consent, but would reserve that until Your Honor tells me you want to hear about it.
All right. Well, let's ask first, Mr. Bradsher. You maybe haven't had time to think about this, but one way that this could be resolved is if you consented to the identity, the existence of the request, and information related to the request. That's found in subparagraph I.
I'm 99% to a decision, Your Honor, of consenting, but I would just like a little time to digest it because
Yes, sir.
I know during the course of the investigation, SBI tried to give me a waiver, and the way I handled it was I requested the documents and then I gave the documents over. I want to make sure that I don't make some type of policy bad decision, but I'm 99% believe if I have a little time to think about it, I'll consent. So
All
if
right.
I could I just was made aware of this issue. So.
I certainly, and I concede that I did not mention this because I was not under the impression it was really going to be an issue until it was raised to us by Ms. Edwards or their counsel, and so that's why I wanted to bring it to the court and at her request, because she was concerned that a subpoena would not be enough. I would say that whether he decides to consent or not, my thought process on it was it's akin to attorney-client privilege, and once you've waived any portion of it, you've kind of waived it all. And by providing the information, he's waived it all. And I don't think there's any case law on point to this topic that I am aware of, and my information that I have from Ms. Edwards is that she is unaware of it either. And so here we are with a case of first impression, but
All right.
I point all that out to the court.
Well, let's see if we can avoid the issue by giving Mr. Bradsher some additional time to think about it and let him give us his position on it. And then if we need to go into under what circumstances a court order could require this information, we'll...
Yes, Your Honor. And again, I think within the next hour or so, I'll digest it and let the court know that I'm consenting. I just want a second to think about it.
All right, very
No
good.
problem.
So we'll revisit the issue certainly prior to the state calling this witness. All right. If there's nothing else, then we'll bring jurors in. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Bradsher, further questions for this witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Blitzer, any recollection now on that home phone number?
No,
Okay. Do you know when it was changed?
I don't recall when we switched carriers.
Okay. 2017, 2018?
Probably 2017, but I don't recall.
All right. Would you state for the record, do you believe that you made any other phone calls to my residence other than that one you've referred to the jury?
I don't recall.
Okay. During October of 2016, do you believe you made any phone calls to my cell phone?
I honestly don't recall. I don't recall what dates.
You have previously testified that your notification with regards to ending your employment was from Ms. Peed at the DA's office, is that right?
Correct.
Were you at home during that time?
No, I was not.
Where were you?
I was in class.
Okay. So it was by a cell phone communication?
My cell phone was contacted. I don't know who was calling. I mean, I knew Miss Peed was calling. I don't know from whether it was a cell phone or office phone. I don't know.
All right. Did Mr. Blitzer relay to you that he had a phone conversation with me that day?
No.
Okay. So once you talked to Ms. Peed and knew that the position was terminated, did you talk to Mr. Blitzer that night about it?
Just that I had been terminated.
Okay, and did you say anything to him about how and why?
I said that Miss Peet had called me and said my services were no longer required.
All right. And did Mr. Blitzer say anything to you?
No, just
And how long before this call would you say that you contend that you and I talked on the phone from your landline to my landline?
how long before?
Yeah, week, 2 weeks?
I don't remember. I have no idea the length of time. I can't pinpoint the length.
All right. After the phone call from your residence, did you attempt to contact me anymore?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Now, after that, I want to move to the civil case. You not only gave an SBI statement, but you also gave an affidavit in the civil case. Is that right?
I don't recall what was given in the civil case.
All right. Do you remember, you do remember talking to the SBI, is that right?
I do.
Okay. And do you recall going to a lawyer's office and talking to some civil lawyers and signing an affidavit?
No, I did not.
All right. Before testifying today, did you have an opportunity to talk with the prosecutor, Mr. Latour?
Prior, I didn't. I think I just came in and sat down.
Okay. So in terms of looking at an affidavit, you haven't had an opportunity to do that?
No, I haven't.
And you have no recollection of signing an affidavit, is that right?
I don't recall.
Okay. As soon as I find the sticker. There it is. Thank you. Madam Clerk, could I get another sleeve of sticker? Thank you. Your Honor, I haven't talked to her about 17, but I would like to label this 18. Tell you what, to keep it straight. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Everything, the whole thing.
All right. Hey, first, not the affidavit, something else. Defendant's Exhibit 17. You recognize Defendant's Exhibit 17 as an email? First of all, as an email?
Yes, I did see it as an email.
All right. Do you see that in terms of a response from an email from Jay Stoltz?
Yes,
Okay. And what is the date of that email?
July the 29th, 2015.
All right, so the end of July 2015. And do you see your email name, state email, Cindy Blitzer?
Correct.
And do you see what you're used to seeing as Jay Stoltz email?
John J. Stoltz, correct.
All right.
Or John H. Stoltz.
And so do you recognize this email?
I mean, I see it as an email. I don't remember it. If I see that it is an email from me to Mr. Stoltz,
All right.
and then Mr. Stoltz send me an email back. However, it looks as though one is from the 28th and one is from the 29th.
Okay. In terms of, well, I move Defense Exhibit 17 if there's no objection at this point.
No objection.
Okay.
It's allowed.
All right, in looking at Defense Exhibit 17, isn't
Yes.
it true this is the email Judge Jay Stoltz to you talking about needing to get a particular case in terms of a conflict?
It is stating that he needs me to look at a couple of things.
All right, can you read the statement to you from Jay Stoltz?
To me from Jay Stoltz?
Yes.
Will do. I need to get you to look at a couple of things over there for me. One of them is a Lloyd case, sexual assault still in district. Can you call me about that?
All right, and you indicated it was a day later, but what was your response?
That was his response a day later from my email to him.
All right, then did you send him an email the next day?
No, it says that Tuesday the 28th I sent him an email, and then the 29th he sent me an email.
All right, what was your email to Mr. Stoltz?
Reminder to please approve my time in Beacon.
Okay. Now, do you remember this sexual assault case, Lloyd, and other things?
I don't remember that case, no.
Okay. Were you, in fact, acting as a liaison with District 9A on these conflict cases with Mr. Stoltz?
I was doing the conflict cases for Rockingham County, or for District 9. I was taking over the conflict cases.
All right. And would you and Mr. Stoltz, once you were in the Rockingham County office working, would you coordinate with Mr. Stoltz by email?
I don't recall coordinating anything by email. If he asked me to look at that, was his email to me to look over the Lloyd case. I don't recall that case.
All right. Do you recall about how many conflict cases you did with Mr. Stoltz?
I don't.
All right. Now back to the affidavit. May I approach you?
Yes.
Randy must be marked as Appendix Exhibit 18. You see that?
I do.
All right, if you could take a moment and look at that for a minute. Does that refresh your recollection of signing an affidavit?
I signed the affidavit, however, I did not sign it in an attorney's office.
Okay. Do you recall sitting down at some other time other than the signature date of August 9th, 2017?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. You said well, let me ask it this way. Do you remember sitting down in an attorney's office and giving a statement prior to this affidavit being prepared?
No, I don't recall sitting in an attorney's office and giving a statement, no.
When you went to sign this affidavit, was it already prepared?
I don't recall when this affidavit, or when it was prepared and when it was not. I don't recall, I really don't.
All right. Well, let's start with August 9th, 2017. Did you have an attorney?
August the 9th, 2017?
Yes.
Yes, I should have had one by then, yes.
And looking to refresh your recollection, do you see your signature on the document?
I do,
And do you see a date of August 9th, 2017?
yes.
Okay. So do you remember the circumstances on August 9th, 2017, in which you signed this document?
I don't remember the circumstances, no. But I mean, I did, this is my signature.
I understand. Where were you when you signed it on August 9th, 2017?
I don't recall. I don't recall where I was.
Do you recall if your lawyer was with you?
Well, this is my, I think this is the secretary for my attorney, but I don't know exactly her last name.
All right. So, one last question on this part. Do you have any memory whatsoever of giving a statement for this affidavit to be prepared?
I don't recall. As a verbal statement or a written statement?
As an affidavit?
I don't recall. I mean, this is definitely my signature on this affidavit.
All right. You had mentioned earlier that you were named a party to the lawsuit, is that right?
I was.
In terms of you not being charged in this matter, were you asked to cooperate with the civil case?
No, not to my knowledge.
All right. Then do you know why you would have gone and signed a affidavit for the civil case?
I don't.
All right. Do you recall that after you were let go from District 9A employment, receiving an email from Ms. Peed, the AA and 9A, asking you to verify the hours that you had submitted that you worked?
No, I do not.
Okay. Now, if you could look at paragraph 15 of the affidavit. Isn't it true that in the affidavit you signed that a couple of days later I received an email from Ms. Peed describing certain hours and asking me to verify that I had actually worked during those hours? Do you see that now?
Yes, I see it. But
And
you
you-
asked me if I remembered it, and I didn't recall it until you just showed me now. So I still don't remember seeing the email, to be honest.
Okay. And is it true that you did not respond to that email?
If that is what I signed.
All right. All right, I'd ask the court if, given the last answer, if she could have just a minute to look through the affidavit before I ask another question.
Ma'am, would you take a moment to read through it?
Okay. Okay.
All right. Having looked at that now, isn't it true that you recall that your supervisor began with Jay Stoltz? Is that right?
Where is that marked in this? Because you're asking me to recall it, and I'm looking at this, and I'm breezing through it. So if you could please point out the paragraph where.
Can I approach the witness, John?
Yes, sir.
Paragraph 11.
It stated that my work was approved by then Assistant District John J. Stoltz, or John H. Stoltz, I'm sorry.
I guess before I get too much farther, did somebody else just write this up for you and you signed it, or do you believe you participated in the preparation of this affidavit?
I wouldn't sign something that I didn't have participation in.
Okay. So you believe you participated in it, you just don't remember? Is
I
that
don't
right?
recall it, no.
Okay. Well, one of the things that's said is that Mr. Blitzer asked Mr. Bradsher for more work. You've testified to that. But in this, it goes further and says that you should just focus on nursing school. But isn't it true, we've already established that you weren't in nursing school, nor did you communicate that you were in nursing school when this was made, right?
When was that made?
Well, August 9th of 2017.
I was in school on August 9th, 2017.
All right. So when Mr. Blitzer came home from Ocracoke, he said just concentrate on your studies, right?
That's what he said that you had told him.
Okay. But then by August 9th, 2017, in an affidavit for a civil case that's filed against me in the state of North Carolina, it changes to focus on nursing school, right?
But that it was to focus on nursing school in April as well.
It is true that Mr. Blitzer told you you could go to nursing school and be paid by the state of North Carolina, isn't it?
No, that is not true.
Last question. Over the break, I was just looking at Mr. Morrow and Mr. Ambrose's statement. I just have a few follow-up questions. This private forensic computer person that you hired to prove to the academic institution that you did all of your course on your own, did they look at any computer other than yours for their
I
report?
don't know which one. I don't know what they looked at.
Well, did they go and analyze state computers at the DA's office?
I don't know what he looked at. As far as the school goes, I don't know.
Well, your statement that Mr. Ambrose just assisted in your coursework is not true, is it?
That's absolutely true. I proved it to my school twice.
All right. And with regards to Mr. Morrow, it is true he not only took the prerequisite course, but also the course after that. Is that right?
No, it is not.
In fact, isn't it true that Mr. Morrow actually did the whole Algebra 1 course himself?
No, he did not.
Isn't it true that Mr. Morrow took every test for you in the Algebra 1 course?
No, he did not. He assisted me.
Isn't it true that Mr. Morrow logged into a state account computer 3 times a week, spending 30 minutes to an hour working on your Algebra 1 course?
No, that is not correct. I don't know how long he spent helping me and assisting me, but I spent far more time than an hour.
Isn't it true you told Mr. Morrow that he should do the coursework while he was at work and they could get somebody else to cover Morrow in court?
That is not true.
You know Mr. Morrow, don't you?
I know him from my husband's office.
All right. Isn't it true Mr. Morrow began the class February 9th, 2016, and ended the class on March 14th, 2016 of the Phoenix University online course?
Mr. Morrow assisted me.
So, do you have any problem with Mr. Morrow? Is there some reason that he would lie about this?
I have no idea why he would.
As to the reason he would do anything, I think she can answer the first part of that question.
Right. Sustained as to the first part of it.
So,
I'm sorry, sustained as to the second part
Yes,
of
sir.
it. Overruled.
You would have to ask Mr. Morrow.
isn't it true that the reason why you do not want to tell the truth about that is because if the academic institution found out he took the test in these prerequisite course, it would jeopardize your degree?
That is not true.
Isn't it true you got the private forensic person so that you could produce some evidence to cover up the fact that these two employees took these courses for you?
No, that's not true.
Isn't it true that this affidavit is not something that you prepared? You just went in and signed as Mr. Blitzer told you to do every step of the way. Isn't that true?
That is not true.
And as you and Mr. Blitzer were having troubles and this spun out of control, by the spring of 2017, you just did whatever he told you to do. Isn't that right?
That's not correct.
And you told him, well, you said whatever he told you to say.
That is not correct.
But it did work out, didn't it? Because you did not get charged and you finished your degree despite this. Isn't that
Objection
right?
to the characterization that it did work out.
Sustained as to that characteristic. Otherwise, you may ask your question.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Latour on direct spent a lot of time talking about the remorse that you had for doing something that you at the time did not feel was right. Do you have any remorse about two employees taking these courses for you that led to you getting a BSN?
They did not take my courses from me, and I have remorse about asking for assistance from anyone.
You would agree that upon the date of your termination, that you still had not disclosed to anyone other than Mr. Blitzer that you were not working?
Please restate the question.
As of the time of your termination, you still had not disclosed to anyone that you were not working other than Mr. Blitzer.
You knew that I was not working.
The question was, you didn't disclose to anyone that you weren't working except for Mr. Blitzer. Isn't that right?
Mr. Bradsher, we had asked for work from you. You knew I was not working. I wasn't working on special cases. I had no cases. You'd taken the only case I had.
We is how you answered the question, so I will ask you this. We, meaning you relied on what Mr. Blitzer told you. Is that right?
That was relayed through Mr. Blitzer from what you said to Mr. Blitzer. Yes, I did.
And you believed it
I did.
because it made sense, right?
He was my husband. He was talking to you and relaying it to me. Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor, briefly. Ms. Blitzer, I want to talk to you about this affidavit that you're having a hard time remembering, okay? You're a party to this lawsuit too, weren't you?
I was.
Did you hire an attorney at some point, Joe Zezatarski, to represent you in this case?
I did. Yes.
And during the course of him representing you, did you ever talk with Joe Zezatarski about the facts that you've talked to all of us about over the last day?
Yes, I have.
Did you relay to him your story about and your accounts about conversations with the defendant and your husband and what work you did or didn't do?
Yes, I did.
And when you hired that attorney, were you relying upon him as legal counsel
Yes.
to tell you what to do and what not to do?
Yes.
And at some point during your representation by Mr. Zezatarski for you, did you sign this piece of paper?
I did sign it. Yes.
Okay. Do you remember where you signed it?
I'm sorry. I don't recall if it was at Mr. Zezatarski's office or it wasn't in a civil attorney's office as Mr. Bradsher had asked me. I was not in a civil attorney's office when I signed that.
Okay. But at some point you signed it.
I did.
When you signed it, did you read what was in it? Would you have done that?
I would have, yes.
Okay. Well, and you've sat here and you've read it, at least perused it earlier today, right?
Yes.
In looking at it, does it appear to be what you told Mr. Zezatarski?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any, or did you make anything up or be untruthful to your lawyer?
No.
Have you been untruthful to the jury?
No.
Now you're having a hard time remembering a lot of things, right?
It's been a long time.
Okay. We're talking about 2015 and 16 mostly, right?
Yes.
Are you good with dates?
No, I'm horrible with dates.
Okay. There seems to be some sort of misunderstanding or miscommunication between you and Mr. Bradsher about the difference between assist and take. Fair enough?
Yes.
Because we spent a lot of time talking about these tests.
Yes.
Now, did you participate in your schoolwork?
Yes.
Did these people that work for your husband participate in your schoolwork?
They assisted me, yes.
I'm not asking you about assisting.
Right.
Did they participate
Yes.
in you doing schoolwork?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when they participated with you about doing the schoolwork, was it a collaborative effort?
Correct.
Meaning you did it together?
Yes.
Were there times where they would do things and you would not be involved?
Yes.
Okay. After that would happen, would y'all talk about what had occurred?
Yes.
Okay. You've testified that you realize now that that is wrong.
Correct.
Is that true? Do you realize what you've done and
Yes, I
why
do.
that is wrong?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And, I mean, we've talked about it. Tell the jury why, in your words, you think it was wrong.
I think that asking someone to assist from my husband's office was probably crossing the line a bit between professional and had I gone to a student who was in my class to say, look, I'm having some issues, can't figure out how to do this calculation, but in retrospect, I should have not asked for their assistance with the class as far as helping me with any problems. I should have probably gone and gotten more clarification from my professor, as I had texted her several times since it was an online class. We had communicated several occasions about questions that I might have, and when she didn't clarify it, I probably should have gone back to her for more clarification instead of going to someone else to ask them to help me as well.
Okay. But you didn't do that.
No, I didn't.
And you've had to deal, sounds like you've had to deal with some consequences for that. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
You say you've had to defend this twice?
correct.
What does that mean?
Once, I want to say it was June, they suspended me, and because of reports that were given in the paper. And I got my computer forensic specialist to pull my computer, show all of my logins, show my work that I had done. I defended that to the president of the university. And then just this past, they reinstated me. And then in October, they expelled me, and I went in front of the, via telecom, the administration at Savannah, the home office, and once again defended my work to the school, and within 2 hours was reinstated.
Now, all of that was about this test taking stuff?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Not some other event that occurred?
No,
Okay.
no, it was about the exact same thing, and both times it was just from reports in the newspaper that they had read.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about, since we're on that topic, nursing school again. Okay? On cross-examination and questions from Mr. Bradsher, he was asking you some questions about nobody, or about the fact that you would only have to take one class, and that's all that you guys had disclosed to Mr. Bradsher, right? Something along that lines?
Correct.
Now, you testified earlier that you had, and your husband both, had talked to the defendant, Mr. Bradsher, about the requirements for nursing school, and that you were one class short, right?
Yes.
When you guys talked about all of that, did you express to him at any point why it would have been helpful for him to talk to this woman at PCC, the community college?
We just, so that I would not have to retake the whole curriculum, it would have been helpful if she would have allowed me just to take the capstone class.
Okay, so in having that conversation, you're saying, if I don't get in here, or are you saying, if I don't get in here, I'll have to take more classes?
Yes,
Okay. And in fact, is that when Mr. Bradsher made this offer that he would try to help you so that all you'd have to do is take that one class?
the capstone class, yes.
Okay. And at some point, Mr. Bradsher, did he let you guys know that, or was he made aware that this PCC capstone class wasn't going to happen?
Yes,
All right. And so at that point, it was known, at least to you, and do you know if it was known that you're going to have to take more than just this one class if you want to go back to nursing school?
yes,
Now, at any point after, and let's focus to after March, when the Shockley case is taken away from you, does the defendant, Wallace Bradsher, reach out to you and ask you, hey Cindy, where are you? Hey Cindy, what you working on? Hey Cindy, why aren't you in the office? Hey Cindy, can you come and help me with something or help someone in the office with anything?
no,
Does he ever at any point reach out to you, or does anyone from his office ever reach out to you and request that you do any work whatsoever for the Person or Caswell County District Attorney's Office?
no,
Do they ever reach out to you after April the 1st, or after they take the Shockley file in March, and say, hey, I've got this special project I want you to help us out with?
no,
Before that date, had they ever asked you to help out with a special project?
no,
Did he ever ask you, or did anyone on his staff ever ask you to use your nursing expertise in any way to assist with a mental health court?
no.
Have you ever heard of a mental health court?
I am aware of what a mental health court is, but I was never asked to help with one, no.
Okay. Were you ever asked to help out with any driving while impaired court as far as a special project?
No, sir.
Bottom line, after that file gets taken from you, do you have any work to do for the defendant?
No, sir.
On that phone call that we've talked about between you, your husband, and the defendant, there was some discussion amongst the two of you just now in court about the difference between nursing school, focus on nursing school, and focus on your studies. Is there a difference to you between the two?
No,
Would you use those terms interchangeably, or to you, do you only say one and only say the other?
well, since I was going to nursing school, I would just assume it's all one big bulk nursing school.
Okay. When you would refer to it, though, how would you refer to it? Would you say, I'm going to nursing school and never say your studies, or would you only say your studies and never nursing school, or would you kind of interchange the two?
Well, I interchange the two. I call it my studies and nursing school, so
Why is that?
I just do. Because nursing school, I'm doing studying constantly, so I'll say my studies a lot of times, but to me, it's all nursing school. It's nursing school studies. So.
Okay. In that conversation, when the defendant said to you something to the effect of, you've been working on these special prosecutions or special projects, you said earlier, and there were some questions about it on cross-examination, about what you took that to mean.
Yes.
Explain to the jury why you took it to mean that way.
Because I didn't do any special projects. I didn't do any work after my case was taken, and I didn't know what special projects they was being referred to. So that's why I did not know what he was talking about, because I was not working on anything.
If I may have one moment, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Bradsher, any further recross?
Just briefly. So, Ms. Blitzer, don't remember any personnel manual development either, do you?
No, sir.
Don't remember any mental health court research and development, is that right?
Correct. I didn't do any.
You don't remember any DWI court substance abuse research development?
No, sir.
Just like, did I give a statement for the affidavit? Just don't remember.
I
But
don't.
when you're asked, were there any special projects, the answer to the state is no.
I worked on the Shockley case.
And Mr. Latour just tried to go back and address the school issue, assist, take. Let me just ask it simple. Under oath, was there ever tests taken for these courses when you were not there at the terminal?
I was at my desk, my computer, taking my class.
So when this ADA and legal assistant were taking tests on the AOC computer,
That's from you. I didn't say they did. No.
so you're saying that no tests were taken on your behalf in either of these courses?
I said that they assisted me.
Well, my question is, if these folks took tests at the DA's office on their computer, how do you get a forensic person to come to your computer and say you took them?
Because I took my test at my home.
So I guess we need to talk to these other two people.
Objection.
One last thing. You hired the forensic person to do your computer to show you did all the work, is that right?
That's correct. To show that I did the work, yes.
Okay. And you did not work on any special projects, is that right?
No special projects.
And you did not do any work for the Rockingham County DA's office. Specifically, you didn't do any discovery, right?
For the Rockingham County office, no.
And it's your testimony that Mr. Blitzer told you not to. Is that right?
Correct. I was only to work for you.
So if you only did a few conflict cases and you were not working on DWI court, mental health court development, the personnel file, and other things that Mr. Stoltz has referred to in these emails, were you really working the 40 hours you were reporting even before March?
I was working on the Shockley case.
So during the time period where you say that you were working, there are no special projects or other extensive conflict cases or working at Rockingham County, right? You're just doing the Shockley case?
I worked on the Shockley case. That was the one that I had. And the other few, I think, too, but I don't recall what they were.
Isn't it true your assignment was to be in Rockingham to do the Shockley case, conflict cases, overflow work for Rockingham, and special projects? That was
No.
your assignment.
No, my work was the Shockley case, and I did, I think, maybe 2 of the other cases, and no, I did not work on special assignments.
So when you went back to the Rockingham County office, tell the jury what your understanding was your duties that consumed 40 hours a week that you say you worked through March of 2016.
I was to work on the Shockley case and any conflict cases through the Caswell or Person County.
And you deny that you worked on all this other stuff?
I
Or
did
even
not.
was assigned all this other stuff?
I did not work on any special projects.
Do you remember towards the early summer of 2015 that you were actually assigned to go and do discovery prep for Rockingham County?
No,
Well, tell me again, why were you in the Rockingham County office then if you weren't doing any work, overflow work for Rockingham County? If you
because
know?
you didn't have a desk for me at Caswell, and that was the way I could at least sit at a desk and have a computer to work on.
So it's your testimony that you were put in a Rockingham County office, DA's office, but weren't going to do any work to support the Rockingham County office.
I did no work to support the Rockingham County office.
Do you at least remember the discussion that while you were there, you could not be directly supervised by Mr. Blitzer?
When I was employed with Mr. Blitzer those few weeks, I did know that I couldn't be directly supervised by him.
In fact, once the opinion came back about the ethics issue, about the ultimate supervisor, you don't remember talking about the talent sharing or shared employee program?
I do not.
Well, then let me say it this way. Did you ever talk to Melinda Richardson about this program?
You had asked me that before, and no, I don't. I did not.
So all this arrangement and, oh, I know, I'm sorry, I almost forgot. Mr. Latour brought up school again. Isn't it true at that first meeting, you and Mr. Blitzer said, I just need one course, isn't that right?
I needed my capstone course.
And then I went and talked to Miss Montgomery to find out about this one course. And do you remember me calling you back and saying, it's a lot more complicated than one course because community colleges require a certain amount of time in order to get the degree from there. You can't just go take the one course.
No,
And then you say, well, yeah, I've had these problems at these other places. And then, isn't it true? I tried to work it out for you to the point where you only had to do some testing, but then you did not pass the test. Is that right?
I was told that I could she would just give me these tests and that I could take them until I passed them, and then she would let me finish the capstone course, but it didn't work that way at all. Once I didn't pass the second test, I was told that I would have to apply and take several classes before I could take the capstone class.
Will you at least agree that after I made that attempt and the test was failed, I did not have any more involvement in trying to assist you with the nursing issue, did I?
You couldn't help me with it at that point. She made the decision that I would have to retake the classes.
And then when you changed your mind and decided to go to BSN nursing school, you did not tell me.
Yes, Mr. Blitzer told you that I was going to nursing school.
When?
Mr. Blitzer told you when I was applying for nursing school, and then when I got in, he told you that I was going to attend nursing school.
When?
I would assume April, at the conference, at the DA's conference when you drove with him.
You would assume.
I would assume you all spoke about my not having work, and you said to concentrate, you told my husband, not me, to concentrate on nursing school.
Nursing school. Is that right? Is that what he told you?
Correct.
Try to finish on this. Can you say here under oath that you never told me that?
I can honestly say I know that most of the conversation was between you and Mr. Blitzer. And most of my communication was through Mr. Blitzer and you, and then you and Mr. Blitzer back to me.
And Mr. Blitzer also told you Jay Stoltz was going to be your supervisor, right?
In March, I think, something to that effect. I don't recall the exact date. I don't remember.
One final question. We've already talked about the problems that were going in the household at that time. Did you ever see Mr. Blitzer become so despondent that he was suicidal?
Never.
Did you ever see him when he was on the phone with me in 2017 talking about committing suicide?
No.
Nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Go ahead and take a mid-afternoon recess at this time and resume at we'll resume at 3:45. So ladies and gentlemen, if you'll recall all the rules and instructions I've given you, and leave your notepads in the chair, gather in the deliberation room at 3:45.